Today, I'm sharing with you a 4th of July comic haul. Let's get into it. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is John and you're watching Old Stuff is Cool. So I recently returned from a trip visiting my family in New York for the 4th of July holiday, and sure enough, I always fit in some comic book hunting when I'm down there amongst the food and festivities. And man, I really lucked out as I got some great books I've been on the hunt for, and even finish up a few little runs and items from my wish list that I really wasn't expecting on finding that day. But before we get into the haul, I wanted to give a much belated shout out. Back in May, yeah, I know, I'm a little late to this, but back in May, I had the pleasure of being a guest to fellow YouTuber SuperOtaku, as well as his co-host CollectorBrain. This was a series for AAPI month, Asian American Pacific Islander, and SuperOtaku and friends were highlighting creators, YouTubers, and all sorts of Asian American backgrounds. I was super honored to be asked to be a guest by SuperOtaku and had such a great time just speaking with him and CollectorBrain. Found quite a bit of overlap in interests and things that we collect. And I'll also link to the video as well as links to both of their YouTube channels. Totally worth checking out, especially if you like haul videos like we're doing today. Highly recommend and giving them a like and a subscribe. And so with the much belated plug out of the way, let's get into the comic book haul. So I had a few days down in Long Island, New York, visiting my family, as I mentioned, and I usually make time to go visit Kyle's Comics out in Smithtown, New York, a short drive away from my parents' home, and came away with this stack of books. I actually shot a little bit of B-roll this time. We've got the main wall. This is what you're greeted with when you first walk in to the shop. Always some great books here. I was super tempted by some of the Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man that apparently just came in, but quick spoiler, we did not get any ASM this video, but we got plenty of other goodies. I haven't had a chance to rebag and board these quite yet, so the price tags you see on here do not reflect the actual final prices, as there's always deals going on, and we were able to bundle these books together for a great final price, which I'll share at the end. But first up, we've got Daredevil issue 279. This is during Ann Nocenti's run, and it gets really metaphysical here, where Daredevil is encountering Mephisto as well as his son Blackheart. To go along with issue 279, we've also got issue 280. And I think I only have a small handful of issues for that Ann Nocenti run, so really happy to close that gap there. I think those came out to under $2 per book, so good stuff. Moving on, we've got an issue of the Mighty Thor. For those who caught a recent video where I picked up Mighty Thor 411 that featured Juggernaut prominently on the cover. Fantastic cover. This is the following issue in a newsstand, no less, issue 412, featuring the first full appearance of the New Warriors. And I have a soft spot for the New Warriors. I don't think much is being done with any particular character from this team right now, but I think you see Firestar pop up, you see Nova pop up. I mean, he just had a series wrap up prematurely, but still he had a recent series written by Jed McKay. Either way, wanted to grab this issue to go along with issue 411. So it's kind of funny, a trickle of Thor has been coming into the collection. There's also another book that I've been eyeing and found for a great price, and that is Spawn Batman. I'm not sure how the first one made its way out my door, out of my collection from a past purge, because I kept the DC produced one, Batman Spawn, but this is the one written by Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane. And I also recently learned, of all places, from Todd McFarlane directly, who's been doing live streams and auctions on Whatnot, but he had mentioned that, this Spawn Batman, the way that they set up the rights and whatnot is he could reprint this book on his own for a couple years, even after the initial printing. And that was one way that him and Frank Miller were able to kind of make some additional money off of this crossover. Because with Warner Brothers DC, it was pretty strict what they could and couldn't do. So that was a little bit of a loophole. All that being said, I think there's tons of copies of this one. So I knew there's no reason to pay even the $10 sticker here. That wasn't the final price, and I knew there was really no reason to pay more, 10 or more. So all that being said, there are tons of copies of this book out in the wild. I don't even think that those subsequent printings, if they counted as second or third printings, I think they're all in the pool of first prints. So there's no reason to pay big money if you're on the hunt for this one. I would, $10 is that probably absolute max. And again, that was not the final price that I paid, but happy to have that one. Another item off my wish list, and I haven't gotten much of Marvel 2-in-1 as of late, but Marvel 2-in-1 issue 58 featuring the Aquarian. This is the final chapter of the Project Pegasus storyline, which I finally read in its entirety now that I finally got this issue. It's a really fun story. I mean, it deals with an Aquarian who prior to this issue was known as Wondar, and through multiple series, including earlier issues of Marvel 2-in-1, he was used as kind of this Superman pastiche. Baby was sent away from a dying planet, except here it kind of crosses over with Supergirl in that his body ages to adulthood, or young adulthood, but his mind is still that of a small child. Anyway, what's really endearing is at one point the Thing takes him in as his own, and he calls him Uncle Benji. And I don't know, there's something really sweet and endearing. I know the Thing as a character, really gruff exterior, but heart of gold. It was a great example of comics of this time where there's plenty of recap, a little more hand-holding. If this is your first issue, they catch you up to speed. Also just a bunch of great characters. Quasar, one of my favorite, C/D lister characters, is prominently featured in this Project Pegasus storyline as well. So if you've never checked out Marvel 2-in-1, I think this is actually a great little storyline to check out, whether in back issues, collected versions, or even digitally. And speaking of other comics that I've been trying to hunt down, this one is Moon Knight related, another of my favorites. This was the last issue I needed in the Charlie Houston. I forgot to look up how to pronounce his name. Moon Knight issue number 9. And this is the run that features some beautiful David Finch artwork. And we got Moon Knight and the Punisher here. In some ways, I want to say they're like two peas in a pod, or they can match each other's crazy. Whatever the point is. Fantastic cover, and I think I was going for issues like 1 through 10, 1 through 12 of this run, and that I can check that off now. Now, those were some of the smaller books I got. We've got 2 left, and these were 2 wall books that I'm quite happy to share with you right now. First up, I shared recently about Uncanny X-Men and kind of peeling back, or kind of rolling back, how I wanted to collect that series. But lo and behold, I found an early issue of Uncanny for the right price that I wanted. It is Uncanny X-Men issue number 114. This one is a mid-grade copy at about a 5.0, which I think is pretty accurate. It might be a little bit better than that even. But what's prominent, besides the moody cover here, is this is the first instance of Uncanny being added to the title. So I felt that was one that I wanted to pick up. Kind of like the first time that John Byrne pops on here. Eventually the first time Chris Claremont writes the X-Men. I think those are all like milestones, small and large, that I'd like as a X-Men fan. And then for the last book is one I don't think I've talked a lot about, but it is probably the most iconic cover of this character, and that is Iron Man issue 282, featuring the first appearance of War Machine. Although there's a huge caveat, War Machine is Tony Stark. In this case, I think in the very next issue, he passes that armor down to James Rhodes, close partner in crime there. But this is such a great cover. I've seen this one quite pricey, but also kind of pretty common at conventions and whatnot. So I've been holding out to get one at the right price. The condition of this one is about 7.0 or 7.5, which is just fine. I'm not looking for a minty copy. I really just have, I have a fondness for War Machine and this armor. I think it's really cool just how it contrasts. I'm not a big Iron Man collector by any means, but I do feel like since I got back into comic collecting and back issue collecting, I've been picking up kind of these key books featuring War Machine. You've got the dark colors and then this neon pink spray paint over the main title dress. It's simple but effective and really cool. So I'm really happy to add these issues, both big and small, to my collection. And in the end, we got this stack of books for $70. I think oftentimes that price might have just covered maybe the last two books I shared, but no, we got this whole stack of goodness for that price. So yeah, that was my 4th of July comic book haul. Did you guys do any comic hunting over the holiday? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you had a favorite amongst the bunch, I'd love to hear from you. But that's gonna do it for this video. I wanna thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care.